Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. We're sure glad it's spring and it's great to see the sunshine. On this week's program, a conversation with the CEO of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, Kendal Frazier, a native of Kansas. Now, this was taped earlier this year, so it doesn't address the most recent events in the industry. We'll also hear from Kansas Corn, Kansas Wheat, and the Kansas Farm Bureau, plus our weekly updates from the Kansas Livestock Association and Paragon Ag Advisors. The Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919, kfb.org. Kansas Wheat Commission, leading in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online, kswheat.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future of Kansas corn. Online, kscorn.com. In agriculture news from agview.net, Kansas Governor Laura Kelly issued an executive order temporarily exempting commercial motor carriers as well as some operators from some of the regulations to expedite disaster recovery efforts in areas affected by the recent blizzard as well as the spring flooding. For vehicles involved in providing direct assistance, the governor's order temporarily suspends licensing certification as well as some permitting rules and regulations that are required by the Kansas Corporation Commission. It also provides an exemption from registration and fuel tax permits enforced by the Kansas Department of Revenue. Now, participating motor vehicles hauling hay will be allowed to carry loads up to 12 feet in width, 14 feet 6 inches in height. Motor carriers still need to obtain an oversized permit as required by the Kansas Department of Transportation, but the fees associated with the permits are temporarily being waived under the executive order. Well, the Government Accounting Office, known as the GAO, has issued a report suggesting that USDA's preparedness for a potential foot and mouth disease outbreak needs to be strengthened. As an example, the report indicated that the entire U.S. supply of FMD vaccine would be sufficient to protect only about 14% of the cattle in Texas and 4% of the hogs in Iowa. As part of its 2016 vaccination policy, USDA's Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service specified 25 million doses of FMD vaccine for each of the 10 subtypes that the virus was an appropriate minimum target to have available. The GAO found that the U.S. currently has access to only 1.75 million doses of each subtype in the vaccine bank. Now, this report was requested by Senate Ag Committee Chairman Pat Roberts of Kansas. And the livestock groups say this report validates that the inclusion of funding in the 2018 Farm Bill for a new U.S. FMD vaccine bank was indeed warranted. Well, USDA reporting China made another 2.6 million bushel purchase of U.S. sorghum. China also announced a significant purchase of U.S. corn recently. Now, these purchases occurred as China confirmed continuing the ongoing trade talks with the U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer, as well as Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin, are meeting with Chinese constituents in Beijing. And recently, President Trump said he is very pleased with the positive direction that the U.S.-China trade negotiations are taking. Stay with us. You're watching the Kansas Ag Report. Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web, oldeseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. Kansas Livestock Association, supporting members' business interests and meeting consumer demands. KLA.org. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com. And Kansas grain sorghum, growers working together. More at ksgrainsorghum.org.
Hello everyone, my name is Josh Rowe and I serve as the Vice President for Market Development and Public Policy with Kansas Corn. And I'm speaking to you today from the Topeka State House, but we keep a close eye on many issues happening in Washington, D.C. I think the top legislative related issue that we're keeping our eye on and really beginning to step up outreach, and that is the ratification of USMCA, which stands for the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement. It's the trade agreement that is set to replace NAFTA through there. Obviously, Mexico and Canada are very big trade partners of ours. If we look in 2018, Mexico alone imported all 24% of all Kansas corn through there. And then if you add both countries together through that, you look at Mexico and Canada, all the agricultural products out of the state, they took 40%. So, China tends to be in the news a lot for this reason or that. I think it's a good media story, but really for the importance of Kansas agriculture, it is vital that USMCA gets ratified this year. And what that will require is a vote by first the U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate both. So any outreach you can do with your own legislators, helping to tell that story and pushing our lawmakers to get this important piece through for Kansas agriculture.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Agriculture information on your computer or mobile device. News and views on grains, livestock, policy, and opinions from newsmakers can be found by liking AgView on Facebook, and on Twitter, follow AgView News, a reliable and relevant source, agview.net. And joining us now is Kendal Frazier, who is a native Kansan, of course, and he serves as the CEO of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. Kendal, coming back to the home state, meeting with the KLA folks, what kind of message are you delivering from the national organization?
Well, our industry, we think, is in a pretty good place right now. Domestic demand and international demand are very strong. In the face of record supplies of beef being produced and record supplies of competitive protein. So the industry is in a pretty good place. And prices this year right now are higher than I think anyone ever thought they would be. NCBA is doing very well. We have a big presence in Washington, D.C., and we're working on a lot of issues in Washington, D.C. In addition to that, through the Federation of State Beef Councils, which the Kansas Beef Council is a member of, we are aggressively trying to build beef demand using as a contractor to the beef checkoff. So we think the organization is doing really well right now.
All right, so I guess let's talk about the elephant in the room in a sense. 2018, one of the things that's been is other organizations, those in the beef industry, are kind of trying to do some things through the legal process, going back to that same old situation that there's some checkoff money being used, maybe not the right way, pointing directly at NCBA. As a vendor, I wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about that as much as you want.
Well, it's unfortunate that RCAF has filed a lawsuit against the beef checkoff in a Montana district court. And they're challenging the constitutionality of the checkoff and the structure of the Montana Beef Council. And we believe that the checkoff is constitutional. We believe there's enough government oversight of the checkoff, and we believe it is getting significant results in helping build beef demand. As far as our role is concerned in that, we have had 2 audits by the Office of Inspector General of NCBA and the Federation of State Beef Councils and several state beef councils. Both those audits found were very clean, and that the money is being spent in accordance with the act and order, and that none of those funds are being used to implement policy at NCBA or any other organization that the operating committee contracts with. So it's unfortunate that this challenge is going on because it's diverting our attention away from what we need to be doing every day, and that's building beef demand. The other unfortunate thing about this is that RCAF has formed an alliance with the Humane Society of the United States in this lawsuit. And that's very unfortunate because the Humane Society of the United States is the sponsor of Meatless Mondays. They believe in less red meat production, and their agenda for our industry is not good long term. And it's very unfortunate that that organization has formed an alliance with RCAP.
We're talking with Kendal Frazier, the CEO of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. We'll have more in just a moment. Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919. KFB.org. Kansas Wheat Commission, leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. And AgView.net, covering news and views in the Beef Belt and Western Corn Belt. Reliable and relevant, AgView.net.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and LibertyLink that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
What if U.S. soybean oil were an industry sensation? If end users started asking for it by name? That future is here. The time is now. To meet customer demands, the Soybean Checkoff is investing in varieties that produce oil with increased functionality. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
Agriculture information on your computer or mobile device. News and views on grains, livestock, policy, and opinions from newsmakers can be found by liking AgView on Facebook, and on Twitter, follow AgView News, a reliable and relevant source. AgView.net. We're joined this week by Kendal Frazier, who is the CEO of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. And Kendal, we turn the calendar to January, a new Congress. We have, in a sense, a split Congress and split leadership in D.C., but that doesn't mean that the efforts of NCBA and the industry really change much.
They don't. We have a office and a staff of 20 people in Washington, D.C. that are working in the halls of Congress and the administration buildings, USDA, FDA, EPA, Department of Interior, every single day representing cattlemen. And that's extremely important. We've got a lot of issues that we're working on. And regardless of who's in Congress, who the president is, we're going to have a presence back there and we're going to represent cattlemen. A couple of issues we're working hard on right now. One of them is the whole issue surrounding fake meat or alternative proteins. There's a big discussion going on in Washington, D.C. about who's going to regulate those products. And there's a tug of war going on between FDA and USDA. We believe that USDA is the agency that needs to regulate those products so we have a level playing field. Now, all you have to do is go look at the dairy section of a supermarket to see what happens when FDA regulates milk and how nomenclature and labeling around milk, and that's not good. So that's a big priority for us. Second big issue we're working on in D.C. is trade. Trade is really important to cattlemen. We're on track this year to export $8 billion worth of beef and variety meats. It's about $300 per head on the price of fed cattle. So we work closely with Congress, the administration, trying to make sure that we have access into markets overseas. So those would be a couple of issues we're working hard on.
Sure. It seems like the industry also is coming together, things like traceability, food safety, all these different situations, because finally the administration has been able to get some key people in USDA. A lot of things have been held up because of that.
Yeah, we're very pleased with the Ag Marketing Service Undersecretary Greg Eibach. He's from Nebraska, as you well know, former Agriculture Secretary in Nebraska, and he is, he's pushing this forward, this discussing of traceability, animal identification. Obviously, there's a big pilot project going on here in Kansas. It's very important because we think we're going to learn a lot. The industry as a whole is going to learn a lot from this pilot project going on in Kansas. So we're working very closely with Undersecretary Eibach, and he's doing a great job in the Trump administration. Obviously, we work very closely with Secretary Perdue, and Secretary Perdue is doing a good job of representing farmers and ranchers in the Trump administration.
Great. Well, Kendal, always great to see you. Thanks for coming back to Kansas, and keep up the fight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Kendal Frazier, the CEO of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, joining us here on the Kansas Ag Report. We'll have more coming up.
Premier Farm and Home has what you need to make your lawn the best in the neighborhood.
Hi, I'm Ken. We choose Premier Farm and Home for the professional look that we do ourselves.
Feel free to stop in. You can also visit our website at heycow.com.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
All over the country, more and more communities are making the change to biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil. And the decision continues, improving the health and welfare for millions of Americans while adding billions to our national economy.
Graincraft, the largest independent flour miller in the nation, has provided a significant donation to the Kansas Wheat Commission Research Foundation in support of impactful wheat research. The gift will be directed toward ongoing research to improve wheat quality and yield through proper fertility management. The research is being conducted by a team of scientists from Kansas State University and USDA ARS in Manhattan, Kansas. The main goal of the research is to provide management guidelines to Kansas wheat farmers to maximize yield and quality through the proper application of nitrogen and sulfur on wheat. Early results indicate that proper sulfur management can improve key baking characteristics of bread wheat and could decrease acrylamide formation in baked goods. According to Aaron Harries, VP of Research and Operations for the Kansas Wheat Commission, the team conducting this research includes some of the brightest scientists in the wheat research community. Depending on the discoveries made, this project has the potential to revolutionize the way farmers grow wheat for added value.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and LibertyLink that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
You don't have to be a farmer or rancher to become a Kansas Farm Bureau member. Anyone can join. As a member, you'll get discounts on things like hotels and entertainment, health and wellness services, cell phone plans, and more. You'll also strengthen the lives of your fellow Kansans and help build strong, prosperous communities through agriculture advocacy and education. Join us today. Visit kfb.org/join to learn more.
As you all know, we rolled out this effort in Senate Bill 32 initially. That measure passed the Kansas Senate 28-11, which is a great margin for us and a great victory. We then went to the House Insurance Committee in the second chamber of the legislature and got a little hung up there on some procedural motions and other, and decided to leave Senate Bill 32 behind and move to another vehicle through the Senate again, which is Senate substitute for House Bill 2143. That is a combined measure. It has some language that deals with association health plans and allowing other groups in the state to develop products for their membership, but also it has the exact same language that was originally in Senate Bill 32. So we're hoping to see that measure move through the Senate this week and then next week through the House as well. What that allows us to do in the bigger scope of things is develop the list of products that we hope to roll out later this year in the September-October timeframe. That would be 4 products in nature: a Medicare supplement plan, a dental vision bundle, a short-term product probably in the 180-day range, and this under 65 non-traditional, non-compliant product that we're working for the legislative authority to offer.
Agriculture information on your computer or mobile device. News and views on grains, livestock, policy, and opinions from newsmakers can be found by liking AgView on Facebook, and on Twitter, follow AgView News, a reliable and relevant source, agview.net.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
A team from the USDA Ag Research Service recently completed a comprehensive life cycle analysis quantifying the resource use and various environmental emissions of beef cattle in the United States. The analysis took 5 years, spanned 7 cattle-producing regions, and used data from 2,270 survey responses and site visits nationwide. Among the results, the 7 regions' combined beef cattle production accounted for only 3.3% of total U.S. greenhouse gas emissions. By comparison, transportation and electricity generation together made up 56% of total emissions in 2016. According to Ag Research Service agricultural engineer Alan Rotz, the greenhouse gas emission findings prove beef cattle production is not a significant contributor to long-term global warming. Scientists also found fossil energy used in cattle production accounted for less than 1% of the total consumed nationally. Results of the study, funded in part by the Beef Checkoff, showed cattle only consumed 2.6 pounds of grain per pound of beef carcass weight, which is comparable to poultry and pork. 2 areas researchers identified for potential improvement are water use and reactive nitrogen losses. In the next 6 months, the Ag Research Service team will combine the initial results with data from other sectors of the beef supply chain, including processing, packing, distribution, retail, consumption, and waste handling.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
Agriculture information on your computer or mobile device. News and views on grains, livestock, policy, and opinions from newsmakers can be found by liking AgView on Facebook, and on Twitter, follow AgView News, a reliable and relevant source, agview.net.
Hello, my name is Aaron and I am here to talk about the cash grain markets. As I have discussed before, the Planning Perspective report came out on Friday. In the past, we were thinking we would see a larger shift to corn. This report was based on intentions at the beginning of March, so now that we are weeks past that, the wet weather we have been seeing will not have been factored into this. This will likely be the highest point we see for expected corn acres, and I expect to see that the number decrease if the planting season continues to be delayed due to wet weather. Corn and bean basis has been creeping up here until recently. With the flooding and the rallies in the markets, basis seems content where it is until something else happens. I think that we will see eastern Kansas and some Nebraska basis improve if the flood water drops and the elevators begin competing to once again fill their space. Southwest Kansas feedlots seem to be pretty much bought up for the nearby. However, buyers will still occasionally pop up to get some nearby coverage. Your best bet is to get some sold into the feeders will be out into May, June, July timeframes. Old crop and new crop wheat basis seems pretty strong as we get into pre-harvest timeframe. Protein premiums are still very few and far between, but with certain buyers they can be found. I have seen a few instances of premiums being paid for lower protein wheat to be blended out. Please give us a ring if you have any questions on any of these cash markets. The best way to reach us is 888-452-8751. Thanks and have a great day.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
That's the show this week. Be social with us online, KansasAgReport.net, or on Facebook and Twitter. I'm Ken Rogers. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. Agriculture information on your computer or mobile device, news and views on grains, livestock, policy, and opinions from newsmakers can be found by liking AgView on Facebook, and on Twitter, follow AgView News, a reliable and relevant source, agview.net.
What if U.S. soybean oil were an industry sensation? If end users started asking for it by name? That future is here. The time is now. To meet customer demands, the Soybean Checkoff is investing in varieties that produce oil with increased functionality. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.